Hot Tees and the Center for T-Shirt Excellence, where we make your t-shirt dreams a reality. Normally, we would bring our custom apparel experience to you, but since we can't be on site today, we have created an online store that will be available for the next 5 days. Every shirt is made right here in our shop in Harrisburg, Oregon. Let me show you some of the options that we have. This tie-dye I'm wearing is one of my personal favorites, but wait, it's missing something. That's better. And if tie-dye isn't your style, we have a variety of other options. And we even have jackets and hats. Some say what we do is a little bit of magic, but to us, it is just part of a normal day. We hope you will shop with us online at hotteesapparel.com/Mount Hood Jazz.
What began in a small workshop in the Sellwood area of Portland over 75 years ago has now grown into the largest piano dealership in North America. For 4 generations, one Portland family has been honored to serve the piano needs of musicians, schools, institutions, artists, and music lovers throughout the Pacific Northwest and beyond. This is the evolving story of classic pianos, and the story of the Eunice family, a family steeped in the love of pianos. It all began when Maurice T. Schuster, a violinist with the Portland Symphony and piano technician, opened a small piano shop that specialized in tuning, servicing, and restoring vintage pianos. Within a short time, his reputation as a master piano technician was well established and the business grew steadily. The growth continued, culminating with bringing his grandson, Maurice Eunice, into the business in the 1970s, nurturing, coaching, and cultivating Maurice's love of pianos and piano restoration. After his grandfather's passing, Maurice continued in the piano business, eventually opening and growing a successful piano retail showroom in Portland, and then selling that business to a large national chain. In the early 90s, Maurice began serving as a piano and promotional consultant assisting piano dealers, and in early 2001 opened another small piano showroom in Portland with his son Brian under the name Classic Pianos. Soon Maurice was joined by his other sons, Aaron and Taylor. Since that short time, Classic Pianos has grown into the largest and most awarded piano dealership in the U.S., with 7 showrooms throughout North America, including Portland, Seattle, Denver, Albuquerque, Las Vegas, Boston, Anchorage, and all of the Hawaiian Islands. Even though the company has grown nationally, at its heart, it is still a family-owned and operated business with the belief that music can change lives for the better. Maurice has often said, "We deal with dreamers, professional pianists, teachers, beginners of all ages who want choices." Each pianist longs to find the perfect piano that suits their particular taste and preference. Ask what he means by choices, and Maurice explains it this way: "We continue to partner with the best manufacturers and never stop researching to ensure we offer value and quality. We carry pianos ranging from entry-level studio and professional uprights to heirloom models from Börsendorfer, Yamaha, Schimmel, and Estonia, as well as a comprehensive collection of nearly new, like new, and restored Steinways from every era."
To see how Classic Pianos can serve you and your piano needs, visit us at classicpianosportland.com.
Hey!
Hey!
Hi!
It's time to crack an egg.
Easy, any style egg works here.
Or smile.
Well done, this looks great.
Time to share a story.
I have a great way to start our discussion.
With old friends or new ones.
When you're a caregiver.
Time to breathe in.
Inhale up. Good job.
Then let it all out. It's never been easier to connect, learn, and have fun.
Cheers!
So let's do it together. Come find us at aarp.org/near-you.
Hello, my name is Roland Andrews, Vice President of AARP. And on behalf of AARP and our AARP Oregon team, welcome to the 2021 Mount Hood Jazz Festival. As you know, jazz is a uniquely American art form that is deeply rooted in the African American Black tradition, culture, and heritage. But more importantly than any of that, jazz is just food for the soul. It provides a measure of peace, it can provide a measure of comfort, and it can provide overall healing in a time like this when we need it most. So, what I want you to do now is just sit back. I want you to relax and just take in those smooth, comfortable, cool, healing sounds of American jazz. So, on behalf of the organizers of the Mount Hood Jazz Festival and your good friends and wise defenders at AARP, welcome to the 2021 Mount Hood Jazz Festival. Thank you and enjoy.
Good afternoon and welcome back to the 2021 Virtual Mount Hood Jazz Festival. We're excited to have brought you 3 days packed with interactive webinars and performances from artists around the country. Thank you for joining us for this next session, Triad Pairs, the Basics and How to Practice Them with Dino Govoni. Before we begin, I'd like to thank our sponsors, including AARP Oregon, Clackamas County Bank, the City of Gresham, Classic Pianos, Gresham Sanitary, the Gresham Center for the Arts Foundation, Austin's Custom Brass, and Spinella's Restaurant. These sponsors, as well as several partners and supporters, have allowed us to bring this festival to you this weekend. You can visit our website for a complete list and learn how you might also support the festival so that we can continue to elevate our jazz community, both locally and beyond. During this session, please use the chat for any questions and comments you might have. Our next session performance features Dino Govoni. Dino studied with two of Boston's tenor sax greats, Jerry Bergonzi and George Garzone, and has played and or recorded with artists such as Grover Washington Jr., Randy Brecker, Queen Latifah, Ben Folds, and the Manhattan Transfer, the Boston Pops, and many more. Dino is currently on the faculty at Berklee College of Music and is a Yamaha performing artist, clinician, and plays Yamaha saxophones exclusively. All right, welcome. Thank you for joining us, Dino.
Thank you, Jess. Pleasure to be here. And thank you, Dan, for having me. As we stated in the opening, I want to talk about triad pairs. This is a topic that has been one of these elusive ones where I would dabble in and out of it different periods of time when I was practicing over the years. And what I've come to learn, even working with my students at Berklee, is that it seems to be some mysterious, voodoo about, well, pairs and why do we do them and where do they come from? And one of the things I think a lot of people don't understand is that we're only taking these pairs from scales that we've already worked on, that you've been practicing over the years, such as major, melodic minor, harmonic minor, etc. And what we do is we'll work within the modes, but we'll pull out 6 notes of a specific scale and work on those through different shapes, but primarily after you've worked out the different shapes on your instrument, whatever that might be, it's learning how they work against different harmonic structures also. But I think the part where people stumble, and hence why I chose the particular topic that I did, is they might even understand the harmonic use, but they're still kind of lost as, how do I practice these? So what I'd like to do today is make an attempt to try to show you some basic ideas, some basic shapes, different ways I like to show different students how to practice these shapes. Now, you had mentioned, as we were talking before we began, that you said we've been looking at them at different periods, and you've spent the last, 20 minutes working on them once again. Just out of curiosity, where do you find you get stuck mostly?
When we were first talking before, I think that I was introduced to these way too early, before I had good facility on my instrument. And then I just kind of forget about them.
You think it was more of a technical issue?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what were you? Okay, I'm gonna pick your brain since we're the ones chatting. I wish I could talk to everybody, but technically, what were you practicing at the time that you felt that this was more challenging?
I think, and I was talking about it with my partner, like we were learning our scales. I'm thinking like early college or late high school. It's like, okay, let's learn all of our majors. Let's learn our minors. Let's learn how to survive in a tune, like vocabulary. And then like, oh, here's triad pairs. This is a really cool kind of sound color. But I was still trying to learn how to swim, through a tune, let alone like being able to play in versions of triads. It's like, whoa, okay, and know where I'm at in the form. So I guess I didn't know how to practice them and apply it to what I was working on in school.
It's interesting. Even though what I find is any material that I introduce to students, I try to right up front go, look, we're going to work on this, but don't think you're going to just get this and start to play it. It's not going to work that way. It will still take time before anything feels natural. Even if I'm working on a bebop phrase, it doesn't automatically just plug it into my solo and there it is, because I always find like I'm playing, here's my lick, I'm playing. It always tends to sound like
exactly.
It fell apart. So I do try to also enforce, do not just try to force these into your playing, because at that point it doesn't seem to happen. Let me see, there it is. Okay. Sorry, I'm talking to myself because I was trying to find something else I was going to bring up when we talking about this, because you made me think of something about with the soloing. So I think the first thing to understand is where the basic triads come from is that we take specific pairs from different points of a scale. I like to refer to scales as the parent scale, and then everything else is the offspring, meaning the modes. Okay, so if I'm talking about the major scale, the two primary triads that we'd be working with are going to be the 4 and the 5. Okay, so the F major triad, G major triad. All right, so that holds true to any major key. If I move into the key of F, okay, I'm going to be using B flat and C. If I move up to G, well, then it moves up and I'm playing on C and D. Now, these will work on not only the 1 chord, but they'll work on the 2 minor 7, the 5/7, the 4 Lydian, the 7 minor flat 5, as well as from the 3, but I don't treat it as Phrygian. I would treat it as a dominant sus with a flat 9, okay, to get the sound. And right now, when you're practicing these, they don't sound like anything. I mean, an example being is this. Let me just grab my horn here quick. So if I take here, I'm gonna flash up a page on the screen quick here, so you can see what I'm looking at. Let me get to. Okay, so I'm gonna do the pairs of C and D, which are gonna be from the key of G. That's the parent key. Okay. Usage would change again if we're making the D dominant from the key of G. I would still use these same 2 pairs. If I'm doing A minor 7, I would still use these 2 pairs. So right here is how I would start practicing simple pairings. Okay, take 2 major triads and spread them out by a whole step, and we're going to ascend and descend up and down the instrument, playing them in the ascending form. Now, one of the things I can't stress enough is that we have to practice these slowly. Did you find that maybe you were rushing into them tempo-wise too quickly, hoping that they were just going to happen?
Oh, always. I'm a saxophone player, so we always go too fast.
Okay, you mentioned one of my teachers, Berganzi. Jerry taught me something I had never even considered early on, and this comes through anything, particularly martial arts, visualizing. He'd say, sit 10 minutes, just don't play, visualize what it is, the concept, start looking at different keys, but look at them in your mind. Don't put them on paper. He said, put them in one key to get the concept, but at that point, do not transpose them. Okay, really try to visualize each key, but slowly. But he said, work out the entire key. Literally go up and down your horn in your head before you pick up the instrument. I remember when Jerry would ask me about things and I'd start moving my hands or wiggling the keys on my horn and he'd tell me to stop. And at one point in my lessons, he'd say, sit on your hands. Because he's saying, your hands aren't talking to you, nor is the saxophone. He says, it's just a tool. It can't make you find the key and play it. You got to know it in your head first, you know. So what I like to say is slowly, just work your way very slowly through these, okay? Now what we're doing here is just these 2 major triads, alternating each key, but working through the inversions as we go up the instrument. As you can see, we're taking 6 notes of the G major scale, and very quickly, which note is missing?
B.
Good. There you go. Okay, so let me run through these really slowly. And the key to this is really visualizing that key in your mind as you're doing it, okay? Now, I would run through that key many, many times, okay? Then I like to work through different, what I call root progressions, whether that be chromatic, whole steps, running around the circle of fifths, etc. To visualize is we start thinking about circle of fifths. That doesn't mean I play one triad, then I move circle of fifths. I play through all these in one key, and then I might go up the fourth, and then I'm going to be playing the F and G, and I would do the same thing. I like to start on the root of the bottom chord unless, and I'll get to this later because if you look down here, you're going to see, well, I didn't start on the root of the lower chord because that's dealing with a specific function, which is why I did that. So in this case, F and G, I'm going to start on F. Again, I'm not going to play the full range of the horn right now. And then from there, I'd go to B flat and C, etc. Okay, so that's one cycle. I think most people find it easiest to move chromatically at first. But then again, maybe going from C and D up to C sharp and D sharp, that might not be so easy for some people. So pick the easy keys first until you get the concept. But then again, working in the circle, that helps. You can start in F, or even more so, start in G, go to C, go to F, B flat. Ease your way into the more challenging keys, okay? So that also helps. Now, I guess they're doing texting if they want to message us for anything. Is that what's happening?
We have no questions so far. So if you're out there and you're curious what Dino's talking about, please let us know. I will forward your
if there's any other area about this you want to chat about, we can. I have quite an outline of topics that we can look at. I'm going to come back to these exercises in a moment, okay? Just to give you a rough idea of some of the scales that I like to, practice these from. Here's my rough outline that I came up with this week, just of topics to talk about on this. So again, right now I'm working with these scales primarily. Now, these are what I call the basic triads from each of these scale types. You're going to see a lot of them do overlap, okay? Right now, if we're looking, as I said, from major, we have the 4 and 5, and all my examples are in the key of C right now, okay? If we move to melodic minor, again, we're still taking it from 4 and 5, but it's 4 major, 5 augmented triad. Then a variation, or as they like to refer to it sometimes as the first cousin, is to go back to just the 2 major triads for melodic minor. Now, the only thing that is going to differentiate that is the chord type that you're going to be hearing them against. Harmonic is back to 4 and 5 augmented. Harmonic major scale. I don't know that everyone works with the harmonic major scale. Are you aware of this? I'm going to guess, being a composer, that you most likely are.
I do. I enjoy myself a harmonic major.
Yeah, okay. For people that may not be as familiar, simply harmonic means lower that 6th degree. You're still playing a major scale with a lowered 6th. So in key of C on the tenor. So So it gets a little bit of a Middle Eastern vibe to it at the same time, similar to harmonic minor. Okay, and those just curiosity if you want to hear those, that's from the 5 major and the flat 6 augmented. So those pairs have an interesting sound. Now, the next, since I just did that descending, another variation on practicing is to change the direction of the arpeggio. Once you feel comfortable doing everything ascending, move to descending, up and down the instrument. I'm going to stay on these 2 pairs for now. Obviously, we're going to start messing around with them, moving around, speeding them up, etc. Okay. Now, you want to join in with me? Play a little?
I can do it on mute.
I'm pretty good at that one, too.
If it makes you feel more comfortable, I'll grab my horn.
No, I just thought maybe we'd just try it and see if we can, get other people to join in with us. At least give us some questions. Otherwise, I'll just keep chatting along about this. There's a lot of triads to look at. And again, I'm just covering real basics and trying to get people more interested in maybe attempting this technique. So, Okay.
When I was practicing a little earlier, I was telling you, you mentioned a lot of things that I was thinking of. And like as a younger student, I never would have been able to think this way because I had to see it on the page, which is a huge weakness.
Well,
so I guess
it's the way we were taught to play.
Right?
I'm a clarinet player, and we were totally taught everything on paper.
Yeah, I'd have to write down everything to be able to do it. And like, I feel like I'm finally at the point where I don't have to do that, but I also need some kind of regiment. Like we were saying, it takes a lot of patience to work your way through this stuff. It's kind of a mental workout. And when we're changing directions of our triads, like going up the first one and then maybe down your second triad and up,
Right. Well,
like we end up with different lines, but I feel like I need to stay organized because I just want to start improvising.
These examples that I was sharing earlier, I'll definitely send that to Dan, and everyone can share this with people. That was where are they? Pretty much everything you just mentioned. His direction changes here. Okay, here's the alternating directions. So going up and then down, up and down, then reversing that, going down, up, down, up. We're gonna come back to this in a minute. I'm showing, and if you notice, I stopped writing them out fully. Once I figure you got the concept, I should only have to give you the first few, and then you're kind of off, and hopefully it's up here now. Plus, you're bringing the ear into the game. And by reading everything, I think one of the biggest things we leave out is the ear. The ear needs to adjust to this and hear it so that, let's face it, what do we do when we practice? Who's there to judge us and tell us we did something wrong? You. That's it. It's all on us. So if we're not hearing the mistake, then we're deepening the mistake into our, into the finger pattern. And also we're accepting that sounds correct to us when in fact it's wrong. So, that's a very interesting one. Is that it's that, but it's being willing to be, slow, patient. This kind of raises an interesting point. I'm like squirrel. That's me. I get distracted in like 2 seconds. So I've always struggled with practicing. But what I do is I'll get this concept, I get it in my head, and I work on it. Mainly where it's fairly quiet, but then I need a distraction. I watch TV and practice. And at the same time, I record myself practicing. Because I'm not trying to be completely just inside what I'm doing. I am hopefully have it enough under my fingers that I can do it, but yet have a distraction. I can tell you what I just watched. And then I go back and listen and hear the mistakes, and then I correct them. Then I'll spend way more time on those keys, because that obviously is the trouble area. So I think everybody has their own unique approach to how they might address something like this. But the key word to learning these is patience. Because I mean, I'll be very honest with you, it's a little boring to practice this stuff. It's not that interesting. It's not like learning a new tune or blowing through a cool set of changes, you know. But over time, it does take. It does. Plus, it also helps to develop your ability to do symmetric shapes, moving through keys, etc. You know. So all right,
Dino,
since we're chatting, do you have a question?
Actually, one just popped up in our chat from Moses. They say, once you have this triad relationship down, what is a good way to apply this to a melody?
A melody?
That's what it says.
Wow.
I might assume that means like changes or something.
I'm guessing more like your melodic phrasing. Right. Okay. Well, I mean, we're kind of jumping ahead of where I wanted to be, I mean, a little bit, but this is totally cool. Here, let me bring this up right now. I wasn't ready to open that one up yet, but I will now. Okay. I've got a couple of solos that were written. Okay. Let me just right now talk about two books that I've really spent a lot of time with that I enjoy, where I think people can learn a lot from. They're very well presented. One is by a great saxophonist in New York, Walt Weiskopf. He wrote a book called Intervallic Improvisation, the Modern Sound, as he puts it. And what Walt talks about at the beginning of the book is partly what I said is that we're just utilizing 6 notes out of scales we already know. This is not earth-shattering as far as where the material is coming from. It's how we use it. It breaks up just playing linear all the time. Because what I start to hear people do a lot here, I'm going to quickly bring up a track. Let me see. So you probably recognize these changes as impressions. I'm just going to play a little bit, but I'm going to give a real simple example of what I hear a lot of people do.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Got that Dorian scale going on with the bebop note.
Absolutely.
So, you know, that starts to happen. And so what I find this helps to do, hold on, I just got to make an adjustment here on my end. There we go. All right.
I feel like saxophone players fall into that a lot too, because we play scale, like we put a finger down, we have a scale, whereas brass players and piano players skip around more.
Yeah, well, the instruments, well, particularly trumpet, it's based on a harmonic system. So, meaning that just that one fingering can be multiple notes. So, yeah, I do think the instrument leads itself to more intervallic playing naturally, as does guitar, because of the shaping of the way you can just move and the way the fingerboard is laid out in fourths. But yeah, woodwind players in general, yeah, we're like up and down that instrument, you know, like we sound like we came out of the conservatory. What I'm going to show you right now is, there it is. Okay, I do have it open. All right, let me share this. Now, this is something out of Walt's book that he titled Expressions, because he can't use the title. But it's based on impressions, okay? Let me see, where is it? There it is. All right. Now, what's really good about what he did here is he's showing you just the linear line, but then he's showing you the triad pairs and where the lines were written, okay? So what I'm going to do so that it's easy to hear, I'm going to slow this track down a little bit. And I will play this so you get an idea of what you, I mean, he really at first really outlines actual just triadic movement. He's not even trying to hide it. As the solo progresses, though, he starts to use different shapes and different movements where it's not as obvious like an exercise, okay? So that brings up another point, that writing out solos with these, to answer the question, it helps you to develop melodic lines so that it doesn't sound like an exercise. So I think one of the primary first steps is don't think you're going to just practice these triads on your instrument and then you're going to just go play a solo. I find that writing phrases or even fragments of lines out to give you at least a springboard, a starting point, so that maybe you write a 2-measure phrase and then you continue and play 2 more measures, using the triads, see if you can continue the shape going from your ear, letting the written line help to guide you. Okay, and I've had good luck with that, even in other areas, even just on blues where students get stuck playing a blues. I might say, well, write down a little phrase, but then answer it. So if you write one bar, play a bar. If you write 2 bars, play 2 bars, etc. Okay, so yeah, let me play this so you get an idea of what it can sound like.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Anyway,
That's great.
it's an interesting line. Is anybody going to play complete solos that angular? Not necessarily, although there is one person I'd like to reference everyone to, who is a very intervallic angular player with lots of shapes like this in his playing. And that's, what's his name? Eddie Harris. I mean, I don't know how many people have really listened to Eddie Harris. The album that a lot of people have forgotten about is a record called The In Sound. And that was from about, I don't even remember what year. But it's the record that Freedom Jazz Dance was on. Okay, so I forget what year. Dan, if you remember, chime in, please, because I don't recall. But on that same recording is a version of Love for Sale that I'd like to play a little bit of. So what I'm going to do is I need to just find his solo. So I'm going to pull the, take it off of here for a minute. Let me just bring up his solo.
So much energy.
I know, right? It's crazy. You got 1965. I just looked it up. I knew it was somewhere in the mid 60s. The language that he had for that period of time was not your normal language. Cats weren't playing like this. So to me, he was way ahead of his time with this whole intervallic approach to improvisation. You can hear him developing shapes built on just two chords going back and forth. Just the way he develops it. But he spreads the interval more than triad. He's using a lot of fourths and fifths also, which is another thing we can consider. That we talk about just using triads. If we do this, well, why can't we use fourths? Now you're starting to hear that sound already by me moving in two keys. Okay? So you start inverting that. Now, obviously, there's a lot more. Now, this raises a point I believe you said before we started talking. A lot of visualizing goes on to this. You have to basically think that you're looking at music without it actually being written. So if I have to sit there and think about those tones I just played, and how am I going to do this? Because now when we move to fourths, we're going to get a note that's going to be close to each other. Because if I'm doing F, B flat, and E flat, now I need to do an inversion of that. It's B flat, E flat, and F. Now I've got a step. The fourth went away, but it's an inversion of that. It's still a triad in my eyes, because triad simply means what? 3 notes. And a lot of people got hung up that it has to be in thirds, and that's wrong. It's like saying pentatonic. Well, a pentatonic isn't just, okay, that's a pentatonic. There's another one. There's another one. So I can sit here just playing variations on this D pentatonics. And they're all pentatonics because it simply means what? 5 tones. So it's kind of endless how far you can stretch out these pairings. But triad being the most simple thing to work from. Another thing I think I'd like to raise is that if you get stuck in practicing the pairs of non-related triads, it all basically goes back to, well, can you play all of your diatonic triads also? Because if you're kind of stuck there, you might struggle with this also. But then again, a lot of people are comfortable with all the diatonic sound, and then the minute you go away from diatonic, this is where the ear is not used to the sound, hence the idea of practicing everything very slowly.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking about with the stacks of fourths. I know that when I start inverting that, my brain would try to go back to what I'm used to, or change keys in my brain.
Like I talked about earlier, what Jerry taught me, literally for 10 minutes, just run them through your mind through their inversions. Just do the F first, then do the G. Then try to do the pair going back and forth, and then speed up the now look at them descending the instrument, and look at them, through their inversions descending, and then try to apply them to the instrument.
Right. In your body before on your instrument. Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's really got to come from the head to the hands, not the other way.
Exactly.
It's this false sense of, well, the faster I play something, the more I'll know it. No. It just means you've learned it wrong faster.
Right.
Yeah.
So as we were listening to that recording, I just had this flashback to when I was a younger improviser, and when people go out and there's a bunch of tension and then release, I'm hearing that all over the place in that solo, but I would always want to know what that is. And that kind of brings me to another question that our friend Dan put in our chat. He says, if you're trying to adjust your energy in your improv, what are some particular pairs that work well for bringing higher energy or altered sounds, besides going back and transcribing stuff?
No, that's a great question, and that's a good one. So if we're talking about G dominant, we're playing on a blues and we got a G7. The most inside pairs are going to be F major triad. I'm sorry, I'm moving my coffee mug out of the way. I gotta get to my little keyboard over here, and I literally have a little keyboard up here, not a full one. I couldn't fit it. F major and G major gives you a very inside dominant sound. So here, let me just, I'm just going to play a shell. Okay. Now, but let's say we're still playing that F dominant, but now I want it to adjust it to more out. Let's just think altered. So I'm just now working off the tensions. And still 2 major triads, but built on the flat 5 and on the sharp 5, or sharp 11, flat 13, whichever one is, able to visualize easier. And so in this case, it's on that G7 is going to be either D flat or C sharp, however you see it. I like to think D flat, E flat. I just put the 2 flat keys together rather than C sharp and E flat, okay? So in that case, now work those out first. Okay, but now those sound very happy and inside in a new key until I do this. Now I've got a lot of tension in my sound. And if we think about what tensions we just put on that chord, so we're thinking D flat 7 and E flat 7 against a G dominant, okay? So the D flat is the flat 5 or the sharp 11, the F is the 7, and the A flat is the flatted 9. The E flat is the flat 13 or the sharp 5, the G is just the root, and the B flat is the sharp 9. So we have every altered tension, okay, along with the root and the 7. So that's why there's a little in and more out, because you still have 2 chord tones. Now, another way to approach that would be simply, I'm going to use G major and A flat major. Okay? Literally sidestepping by a half step. Okay? I wish my piano would sustain more, but it doesn't. Jeez, a synth sound. So there you're literally just weaving back and forth.
Yep.
Okay. That's another very simple way to approach this, but you have control because it's actually not just random. I'm playing in, I'm playing out. We could do the same with this impressions, where I could talk about, using the G and the A triad for the minor chord. I'm sorry, I'm saying that specifically because I'm looking at E minor 7. So I'd be thinking G and A for very inside, okay? Another pair I might use might be D major, E minor, okay? A major, B minor, C sharp minor. All of these are going to function just fine on this. Right now, all I'm doing is visualizing a Dorian scale, and I'm looking at the pairs. You could make a pair off every single movement. Take your E minor Dorian, go up the scale, and think, well, I got E minor and F sharp minor. Okay, that's a pair. Is it a real strong pair? It's okay. It's not that interesting. F sharp minor, and what would be the next one?
G.
G what?
Major.
Okay, so now we got a minor and a major. A little more interesting. But then we have G major and A major.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's the total home base. A major and B minor. Okay, now I'm staying all diatonic right now. But what if I just took one of those minors and made it major? Like, what if I went A major, B major? All of a sudden,
your leading tone. Yeah.
We've got the leading tone. Also, a bebop note. Because you can either use the major third or the major seventh on a minor to give it the bebop scale.
And 9 and 13, right?
Whole new topic.
Yeah.
Bebop scales. But if I think about that pair, okay, so another shell here, hold on. One note created a lot of tension. Okay. I hope this is helping. Who asked that question? What was it?
You might know him, Dan Davey.
Oh, it's Dan. Oh. I didn't hear the name. So, sorry. Hi, Dan. Good question. No, so, I mean, that is definitely a good way. And again, simply, if I'm in G, or in E minor in this case, G major, again, this is just the mode of G major, so you notice I'm back to G major again.
Right.
Okay. But that being said, you literally could just take two pairs and play a half step off the tonality.
Mm-hmm.
And I find what's this one will rub you the wrong way, Dan. Let's say I'm in E minor. but I'm going to play E flat major and F major. Now, you've got that leading tone again, but you've got the G, so it's in the tonality. But now you got this B flat, okay? Blues scale. Think blues scale. It's not as far removed, because if you just throw in that blues scale sound, okay, so that B flat isn't so far removed. Then the F major, well, we have the flat 9, but this is a Dorian flat 9 scale, so I can justify the note. We've got the 4, and we've got a flat 6. Well, it's Aeolian natural minor sound, okay? Now, if I play that against this, now we're getting a lot more, as you say, energy or rawness. Am I going to stay there and resolve in this sound? No. But I totally could use it to move. So I could shift back and forth in half steps. So if I'm playing on that Impressions track.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
So on the second 8, I was shifting back and forth between the two. And you can hear the triads. I'm really trying to shape it so you can hear the triadic intervallic movement. I'm not using any other notes other than the 6 I've chosen. So it was that first group of 6, which in this case I was using E minor, F sharp minor. Then I went to E flat major, F major. But now what if I totally just symmetrically went from minor to minor? Now it's going to really start. Is it going to actually sound that out though? Because now on the E flat minor, it's the G flat, which is the 9. So it's not out of the key. But when I go to F minor, now I've got the major third, the A flat. Now it's going to, again, rub a little bit more.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
But you could hear there was way more tension by just changing that one note. Now, something I haven't brought up and is not on that sheet, all the combinations you can practice, which are not diatonic in this sense. Practice pairings of major and major. Right now, everything's a whole step root movement, okay? Minor and minor, diminished, diminished, augmented, augmented. And then go back and start mixing them. Major, with minor, with diminished, with augmented. Vice versa. Minor with those same. And go through one, tagging the second chord to be one of the other ones. Okay? So if I just did all major at first, like this. Okay? Then let's say I'm doing all minor. Augmented. And lastly, diminished. That tritone always gets me.
Yeah.
But then start doing pairs. I'm going to do, I don't know, I'll do a minor with an augmented. I kind of like that sound.
I could see you visualizing there for a minute, Dino.
Oh no, I know I look like I just my brain freezes up or something. So
I think these are awesome. We still don't have any more questions, so if you're watching, please hit us with questions. We have about 10 minutes, 12 minutes left. So
yeah. So let me look at another written solo that, another book that I thoroughly enjoy is one by a saxophonist in Florida, Gary Campbell. You know of Gary? Gary's great, writes great books. And this book is simply what is it called? Triad Pairs for Jazz. Very simple, okay? He puts a few examples in the back also of like written solos. And this one specifically is a blues solo. So let me bring that up. And then I'm going to talk about some pairs that I like to use on blues. Let me get the track here. All right, so
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Hey, not bad sight reading, huh?
I was gonna say.
I literally made a PDF of that just before we did this class. So, now here you get to be a student for a minute. You're
Okay.
going to tell me, what pairs do you see?
Oh my goodness.
I know, right? All right, Dan. Any way you can give me the ability to annotate? You have me shut off. If not, that's cool. I'll just point with my mouse. So, where's the first triad you see?
Let's see. Well, we have a B flat major triad and measure 1.
Okay.
That doesn't count though.
Well, where's the B flat major triad? Because I don't see a B flat major triad.
Descending.
Uh-huh.
3 and 4.
Mm-hmm.
Then we get E
That's
flat
not
major.
I'm gonna still stop you.
Uh-oh.
Because it's not a major triad. Oh, major triad, but I'm talking the whole thing. It's the dominant. So you got the one triad, but what's happening here? What is this guy doing? You were talking about this earlier. That
aren't we just passing down to our next chord?
approach tone, good chromatic approach,
Yeah.
and then
E flat major triad.
okay, to again an approach note.
Approach note.
We're gonna go back to my sheets because I actually have this written in my sheets. This exact topic is in there. How to apply adding an extra note that's non-diatonic to the triad. Okay. Now here we've got exactly a triad.
Yep, our flat 7.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Right.
And then the B flat with just one of the notes repeated. So we've been doing everything in groups of 3 right now. So I want to stick on this one thing right now. We've been doing everything. It's just 3 note, literally the triads. Well, that gets boring after a while. So now we want to make them more interesting. We can just repeat the note of the each inversion and play it as a 4-note group. That gets old. Or we could do it like what's written there. Or we could do an approach note to any one of the notes within, not necessarily going to the next chord. Okay, so I'm just approaching the top note of the inversion. Okay, sometimes it could be a diatonic note. In most cases, it's going to be chromatic or opposite. Sorry, my horn's getting caught up on my jeans and holding keys open. All right, so different things we can do. Right there's a great idea of how to repeat a note to make it a grouping of 4. They do it again on which triad is this?
Again, the flat 7 of the chord.
Good. So remember I talked about using 2 specific triads for dominant, 7 and the 1.
Mm-hmm.
But you think about where the dominant falls in a key. So think of the key of E flat, which would be the parent to B flat. B flat is the 5th, but the A flat and the B flat are what degrees of E flat?
4 and 5.
There it is. See,
yeah.
Those church modes, as they like to refer
right.
to them, showing up right here. Okay. Now look at that next one, though. So we have this B flat and you were talking about this one earlier, the tritone.
Oh yeah.
There it is.
In inversion, yep.
But dig it, it's a half step above where it's going. A typical common, harmonic movement is just play the tritone. It's a half step up, right? Okay. Now we got our E flat and D flat, the one in the 7 again. Okay. All right. Let's move forward to where he gets a little more aggressive. Let's go down in this chorus. Now, what do you see?
E flat major, but with that chromatic tone to the 3rd.
You can approach the first note with a chromatic, and he did it right here. And so you got the major, and what do we have here?
D flat.
Again,
major with a half step approach.
With that chromatic approach. So he's using that thoroughly right up to. Now this one, check this one out. What do you see here? What chord is this?
A flat major. With the approach tone.
Chromatic approach, good. And now here he's actually showing you full 2/5. It's just the sub 5 of the E flat. Okay. So he's using the corresponding triads there. All right. Let's jump down here. What are you noticing down here for usage?
Just all more B flat major, E flat major.
Okay.
There's a theme here, Dino.
You notice that? So it's not as hard harmonically to use it, it's how to use it. Okay. Now this next one gets a little more interesting.
Are we at that turnaround going to the 2 chord?
We're right here. Okay. B flat 7 G. Yep, sorry. Like I said, I can't annotate. What are you noticing?
Those are all approaches, right?
Some of them are. Some of them are actually part of the triad. Now, this is what Berganzi had a term we refer to editing, where you don't always have to use the whole thing. Let me, I'm going to do a new share here. I want to actually go back to my exercises. And I'm going to jump down. Okay. Gary likes to call these things mutations, and I've just adopted that term myself. Notice his C and B flat, C and B flat, but I'm not using the complete triad. So this is kind of something that he's also utilizing in that particular solo. So instead of practicing this like this, he's just dropping 2 notes. Okay, now I have written it so you really can see the breakdown. But let's move our bar lines and pretend that the bar line is actually here. And that's just a measure in 4. So it'll be like 1, 2, 1, 2, and 3. of a sudden it has a completely different feel, and you're breaking up the harmony in an awkward spot, not the typical spot that you would do it. If I put on a metronome so you can hear it, it makes a little more sense. Oops, sorry about that. Let me see. Play a couple of these. That's an interesting sound, right? All of a sudden, that half step that I was talking about earlier. Okay. A little bit more of this on your favorite, the tritone. Oops, I didn't mean to jump pages there. 1, 2, 1. Found a written mistake in my own part that I didn't catch.
I was gonna ask.
Yeah, no, that was a mistake. Obviously, the pattern would have gone to the low F, but I have to, with the tenor, I have to bring it up. I'll do that same thing on the tritone. 1, 2, 1. This one gets more challenging. Anyway, you get the idea of where we can go with these. Okay. Dan, I think I will send you this one after I make the correction on that one note. Now, this, like I said, I had this in my sheet. Here's the perfect examples of the passing tones we were talking about earlier when we saw that other solo, okay? So you see the triad, and I've marked the passing tones very clearly. So this would be the triad without the tones. Starts sounding like bebop. Descending. Wrong note. Cool.
Awesome.
So going back, I know we haven't really talked about harmonic usage, and again, we're scratching the surface of this material. Just getting it under your fingers, as you can see, can take a long time. You know, I've basically dealt with 1 or 2 keys the whole time. You got to do this in all 12. I mean, always. Sometimes it means maybe working it out very thoroughly in one and then transitioning over to other keys does help. Let me see. I'm gonna go back to this guy. So on this page, I've shown the various modes that within these keys that work. So I've shown you numerically, and then also in that specific key. And everything again is examples in C. Okay. So the usage for in the key of C for major, melodic, minor, and you got to go back and remember, well, what pairs am I working from? Okay. So like if I jump down here to harmonic major, you go back and look at the chart. It's the 5 major, flat 6 augmented. So you're dealing with a G and A flat augmented triad over these chords, and I have no idea how that got in there. That's obviously a mistake. It doesn't. It was. Got to get rid of that. The 1 major was in there still. Okay. So C major, sharp 5, but you're using G and A flat augmented. So you're not even like thinking C. And that's another issue that comes up, that a lot of times, if you notice when early improvises, everything relates to the root. So we're getting into advanced harmony on top of something that seems very simple.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. The harmonic end of this is really advanced and really challenging, okay? And that may even take longer to learn, how do I use this? Even the blues solo we just looked at, they were the very simple, early modes, the easy ones to work with. We're throwing in some chromaticism. As you can see here, we can go a lot further with it, when we get into these more advanced scales. But now, not even thinking about advanced scales, here we are talking about a blues. One chord, the one chord. Look at the pairs I'm using. That's one chord. But this is hours of practicing that sound against one chord to learn what it is. So I start out with the most basic, the 7 and the root. Then I switch it to minor, and all that does is it gives me a flat 9, sharp 9 dominant sound, okay? Based on a Dorian flat 9 scale, which is mode 2 of melodic minor, okay? And I switched them to both to diminished. Okay, again, flat 9, sharp 9, but also sharp 11. So it's based on the diminished, the inverted diminished scale, the half whole. Okay. If I jump to the next one where they become augmented, flat 5, sharp 5, but whole tone scale. But again, you're not thinking whole tone scale. But what's interesting about this is the only one where you play all the notes of the scale, because the whole tone scale is only 6 tones. And it's just playing it differently. Okay. Then minors that are half step apart. So the root, and then, Dan, this kind of goes back to what we started talking about when you asked your question. When I do that, this is specifically what it gives me. Okay, it's basically quasi-diminished or altered scale, because they both have a similar sound. But it's the flat 9, sharp 9, flat 13. The next one with the minor, and then from the tritone, this is going to be a little different than maybe what you practice. It's 2 different types. It's a minor and a major. Okay? And this gives you a flat 9, sharp 11. Kind of a, you could say still a very, like I said, a diminished or an altered sound. And then the last one is probably a little bit different, because I'm still on B flat, but I'm doing the 6 and the flat 7 minor and augmented, and then the 9 and the flat 3 minor and augmented. But I'm using all 4 on one chord. So that works well when you got like, say, 2 to 4 bars of this one chord, where you can really alter your sound. This also brings into some symmetry. I'll just do a real simple symmetric type shape. I'll kind of like do it. Yes, I'm adding a passing note, adding the 9 to each of those. If you just want to hear the triad, it's not as exciting. But if I just do a triad, I'll do a permutation. I'm Joe now. There, played it wrong. So now you start to hear that symmetry. Now if I was actually playing. And interesting enough, that was on B flat 7. So if we're playing a blues.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Sorry.
It's getting really fun now.
Well, now I'm actually applying them a bit more.
Right.
Now I'm just going through those little shapes. But then
this has been awesome.
It's the ability to see it ahead on the next chord and apply those chords.
Right.
So.
And play authentically.
Right. Well, make a melodic statement. Right.
Exactly.
So. Okay. Well, I guess we're not going to get bombarded with questions, which I didn't expect that we would, which is cool. It's been a pleasure. And
absolutely, Dino. I am inspired to practice my triad pairs now.
Well, I'm happy to hear that. And all here, I'm going to throw something up here. If anybody wants to reach me, they can email me at this address. Okay. Hold on one moment. I'm typing it at the bottom of this sheet, and I'm going to share that page once again with you with that email address. Where is it? Okay, here it is at the bottom. If anybody wants to contact me, they can use that email address.
Excellent.
Throw out some questions. I'm going to correct the 2 wrong notes I did find in that. It's, you can sit in front of Sibelius all day and you think you've caught everything, and as soon as you start playing, you go, "Oh yeah, there's a wrong note." It ultimately happens. So
I understand.
But what a pleasure, Dan. Thank you. I'd like to thank everybody who was watching, and I'm glad you guys are having a good. I'm guessing you got one more show tonight, is it? If I remember on your, I don't recall who was playing. I forget now.
It's Rudrish Mahantapa.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Hero Trio.
Yeah, cool. Well, enjoy, and
Awesome.
Pleasure seeing everyone.
Excellent. Thank you, Dino. To our people who are tuning in still, please make sure that you visit our website at mhcc.edu/JazzFestival if you want to purchase some really awesome Jazz Festival merchandise. Dan showed me them. They're pretty great. Don't miss out on it. Or to learn how you can help us with our festival in the future. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope that we see you tonight at this final event of the festival that starts at 6 o'clock, and there will be a backstage Q&A. So thanks again, Dino, and have a wonderful evening, everyone.
Bye now.